Mass of element, mass of compound. How do these variables determine the percentage composition of a compound? Hello Sci-Pals! I am Sir Wendell Mayor, your science teacher for today. In this episode of Agham Alam Hub, we're going to define percentage composition. We will determine the percentage composition of a compound given its chemical formula. Furthermore, we will appreciate the significance of percentage composition in our daily life. In the next few minutes, we will explore science for another moment. Mass of each element in a compound compared to the entire mass of the compound multiplied by 100% is called the percentage composition of the compound. So, the percentage composition of a compound tells you the percentage of the mass made up by each element in a compound. We will illustrate this concept using the compound ethanol, an alcohol obtained by fermenting the sugar in grapes, corn, and other fruits and grains. Ethanol is often added to gasoline as an octane enhancer to form a fuel called gasohol. The added ethanol has the effect of increasing the octane of the gasoline and lowering the carbon monoxide in automobile exhaust. Note from its formula that each molecule of ethanol contains 2 carbon atoms, 6 hydrogen atoms, and 1 oxygen atom. This means that each mole of ethanol contains 2 mole of carbon atoms, 6 mole of hydrogen atoms, and 1 mole of oxygen atom. We calculate the mass of each element present and the molar mass for ethanol as follows. We simply multiply the number of atoms of each element to its atomic mass and sum it up. The molar mass of ethanol is 46.07 gram per mole. The mass percent, sometimes called the weight percent of carbon in ethanol, can be computed by comparing the mass of carbon in 1 mole of ethanol with the total mass of 1 mole of ethanol and multiplying the result by 100%. That is, ethanol contains 52.14% by mass of carbon. The mass of percent of hydrogen and oxygen in ethanol are obtained in a similar manner. We simply divide the mass of hydrogen in 1 mole of ethanol over the molar mass of the compound and multiply by 100%. We will get 13.13%. For oxygen, again, divide the mass of oxygen in 1 mole of ethanol over the molar mass of the compound and multiply by 100%. We will get 37.43%. The mass percent of all the elements in a compound add up to 100%. Although rounding up effects may produce a small deviation, adding up the percentages is a good way to check the calculations. In this case, the sum of the mass percent of 52.14% carbon, 13.13% hydrogen, and 37.43% oxygen is 100%. Now, it's your turn. Glucose is a 6-carbon sugar which is also known as blood sugar. It is an energy source that fuels our bodies. Calculate the percentage composition of the elements in the compound. What is the molar mass of carbon? That's right! Since there are 6 carbon atoms in glucose, its molar mass is 72.06 gram per mole. How about hydrogen? Correct! Since there are 12 hydrogen atoms in glucose, its molar mass is 12.10 gram per mole. How about oxygen? That's right! Since there are 6 oxygen atoms in glucose, its molar mass is 96 gram per mole. Based on the computed molar mass of each element, what is the molar mass of the compound? Correct! The molar mass of glucose is 180.16 gram per mole. Using these values, what is the percentage composition of each element in the compound? As you sum them up, make sure that the percentage composition is equal to 100%. If you get 40% for carbon, 6.72% for hydrogen, and 53.28% for oxygen, well done! You got the correct answers! To sum it up, here are the steps in determining the percentage composition of a compound. First, find the molar mass of all the elements in the compound in grams per mole. Second, find the molecular mass of the entire compound. Third, divide the component's molar mass by the entire molecular mass. And lastly, you will now have a number between 0 and 1. Multiply it by 100% to get percent composition. Take note, the percent composition of all elements in a compound must add up to 100%. Knowledge about percentage composition is useful in choosing the best fertilizer that gives higher amount of nitrogen and potassium in the soil. Aside from this, it will help us to be a wise consumer because it is a good basis for choosing the food product we need to eat based on its content. Whenever you buy t-shirt, it is good to check whether it is 100% cotton or just 75% cotton. In terms of product development, for example, if a manufacturing company wants to produce resin, it will not be able to do if it doesn't know the correct percentage of every component needed to form resin. Percentage composition will indicate the correct amount of substances needed in order to produce the expected product. In this episode of Agham Alam Hub, we define percentage composition. It is the mass of each element in a compound compared to the entire mass of the compound multiplied by 100%. We also determine the percentage composition of a compound given its chemical formula. First, find the molar mass of all the elements in the compound in grams per mole. Second, find the molecular mass of the entire compound. Third, divide the component's molar mass by the entire molecular mass. And lastly, you will now have a number between 0 and 1. Multiply it by 100% to get percent composition. Take note, the percent composition of all elements in a compound must add up to 100%. And lastly, we appreciated the significance of percentage composition in our daily life. Knowing how to calculate percentage composition is helpful when selecting appropriate fertilizer to provide more nitrogen and potassium to the soil. Aside from that, it will assist us in being intelligent consumers because it provides an excellent foundation for selecting the food product we require depending on its composition. When purchasing a t-shirt, make sure it is made of 100% cotton rather than only 75% cotton. In terms of product development, if a manufacturing company wants to make resin, it will not be able to do so until it knows the exact percentage of each component required to make resin. The right number of components required to obtain the expected result will be indicated by the percentage composition. That's all for today, Sci-Pals! Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. See you again next week for another moment. Only here in Agham Alam Hub, Palajan Sci-Tech Portal. Bye!